Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear brothers and sisters, inshallah, we are going to talk about the faith in Allah, in Islam and in general. Why do we believe in God? Why should we believe in it, in Him? What's the basic main arguments on the belief in God? You know, there are a lot of things is said about that issue, and in this age, unfortunately, the faith in God is kind of weakened by modern arguments, modern things like naturalism, materialism, and it became kind of with communism. It also became kind of a political issue. So what is the basic things about this? We cannot cover all of the arguments in an hour, but I just want to give you a kind of a sense of what is going on the issue. We know that in the past, faith in God was not questioned, but when time came with scientific developments, some people, especially from the scientific part, started talking about atheism more loudly. For example, evolution with Charles Darwin, and afterwards is still an issue, and it challenged not only Christianity, also Islam within Islam. And Muslim scholars, like other scholars, other Christian scholars, faithful scholars, they gave a lot of answers to that. In general, to atheism, and in particular to evolution or some other issues. So, as we know, as our main source after the Quran and the Sunnah, of course, based on them, is the Risale-i-Nur. Our Ustad Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. He lived in such turbulent times when atheism peaked and made a lot of things started talking about that in the early 20th century. At that time, Bediüzzaman, he wrote, as you know, the Risale-i-Nur collection, and it is based on that collection is based on proving Islamic principles in a way that fulfills the mind, the spirit. Not just saying we need to believe in God, but giving reasons why should we believe in God? Why should we believe in Allah? But before that, he wrote a lot of things about this. But the first step we can see in his Risale-i-Nur is first to destroying the thought of atheism. Here, I guess you can see, I cannot see it in the screen, but I guess you can see it. It is the 23rd flash. It's on nature. Tabiat Risalesi, on nature. So what Nursi discuss here is let's start here after the first. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. Here is the ayah. Is there any doubt about God, creator of the heavens and the earth? Let's start a little bit about that. Introduction, just a short passage. O man, you should be aware that there are certain phrases which are commonly used and imply unbelief. The believers also use them, but without realizing their implications. We shall explain three of the most important of them. So, three ways of atheism, three arguments of atheism against the faith of God, which is the first one is the first causes create this. So the question is, what is this all creation all about? Why are we here? Because human beings, they question these things since the first human. Who are we? Why are we on this planet? What are we doing here? And the third one is the third question, most important. What's going on? What will be happen after death? Is there a new life, a hereafter, or not? So these are questions all humanity struggled with them throughout the history, including philosophers and scientists. Every people from every way of life, they struggle with them, and of course, the prophets, the saints of Islam, they gave their answers, but also non-Muslims and non-believers, let's say, it's not about Muslim being a Muslim in our sense, non-believers in any kind of religion, so the atheists, they came up with basically three arguments. The first, causes create this. Evcedatul esbab. The esbab, the causes, create this universe. So the causes come together and create it. The second, it forms itself. Teşekkele binefsi. It forms itself. So this universe, it's here itself, by itself. It comes into existence and later creates and ceases to exist. And the third, it is natural. İktidatu tabi'a. It is natural. Nature necessitates and creates it. So this is the three main arguments. And Bediüzzaman, he gives for all these three, he uses analogy, he gives the answers and proves that those arguments cannot be true. Causes cannot create anything, and nothing can form itself, cannot be formed itself. And also the nature, the tabi'a nature, or the nature of the things cannot necessitate the created things, the universe. I'm not going to read all these things and going into details. But just to give you a sense of it, maybe we can just one example maybe. Indeed, since beings exist and this cannot be denied, and since each being comes into existence in a wise and artistic fashion, and since each is not outside time but is being continuously renewed, then, O falsifier of the truth, you have to say either that the causes in the world creates beings. For example, this animal, that is to say, it comes into existence through the coming together of causes, or that it forms itself, or that is coming into existence is a requirement and necessary effect of nature, or that is created through the power of one all-powerful and all-glorious. So either one of these three ways, and if not is one of these three ways, it is created by Allah, by God, because that is what they called in logic. It was you eliminate all the parts, you eliminate it, and then the last one is the true one. Like when you take in a test, there are 5 answers. I mean, an answer and 5 possibilities. A, B, C, D, E, for example. If you eliminate A and B and C and D, if you are pretty sure that all A, B, C, and D is not true, then it is necessarily true that E is the answer, like this. So if these 3 ways are batil, invalid, are absurd, impossible, so it means that the last way, which means God created everything, is the answer. So here Bediüzzaman, he gives a lot of analogy and makes the way for the last one. I'm not going to read all of these. So this is important because nothing can be created by the causes, because the causes are themselves created, but the causes cannot be there by themselves. That's the point. And also it cannot come into existence by itself, because we see, and the examples are on this way here, we see that nothing around us comes into existence by itself. This is here we have an anecdote from Abu Hanifa. It is very very famous actually. So I know I know it as from Abu Hanifa. So he faced a atheist, and it was said that atheism, which is called in classical Islamic history, we had this dehri, way people call dehriyun. Dehr means time in Arabic, and dehri means those who just believe in time. So we are coming into existence in time, and then when our time is up, we are dying, and no resurrection. So that people, pretty much, it is the atheists, or in another Arabic and Islamic terminology is mulhid. So ilhad is atheism and mulhid is the atheist. Anyway, whatever it is called, but an atheist was challenging scholars and saying there is no God, no one created this world. It came to existence by itself, and no scholar could be able to answer to this man. But then they asked about Abu Hanifa. So maybe he was a great scholar, of course, and before he was a scholar in Islamic law. Actually, he was a scholar in Kalam, so Islamic faith. So he started his career as a Muslim scholar in Islamic faith, actually. So they called him, but Abu Hanifa said he just, I will be late to the appointment, and when I come to you lately, just you ask me why are you late, okay? So they have an appointment in a certain time, certain day, certain time, but Abu Hanifa doesn't show up, and the atheist that there, he says, "Oh, look, I guess your scholar is afraid he cannot, he doesn't show up." But afterwards, Abu Hanifa comes, and of course, the people around him, they ask him, "Abu Hanifa, why are you late?" And he said, "Oh, something happened so incredible when I was on my way here." So what happened? When I was on my way here, I wanted to cross a river, but there was no boat, nothing. I started waiting for for any boat to appear, but nothing appeared. And then suddenly, from the ground, something came out, and it became a tree by itself. And then it was cut it by itself, and all these became the tree became by itself like limbers, and then all these wooden parts, they come together, and then out of nothing there were some nails. So the limbers were nailed together by itself, and at the at the end we needed shovels. So shovels became by itself there, and when it was finished, the boat was finished by itself. It went by itself to the river, and I just jumped on it and crossed the river, and then that's the reason why I'm so late. And of course, when he said that, the Dehri, the atheist, he said, what are you talking about? People say you are the clever of the clever Muslim scholar. What is that? You are the smartest? You are talking nonsense. And at that point, Abu Hanifa said, then if I'm talking nonsense, what does it mean? If somebody says, and you say, that this whole universe was created out of nothing, by itself, by accidents, what does it mean? That the real madness is that, he says. And the atheist, he couldn't answer this. Because when he gave that analogy, so a small thing like a boat cannot exist itself. It needs a kind of creator. Or if you want to build a ship or a boat, a lot of people involved in it. This is for everything. Whatever we have around us, like for example, my phone here. You have a phone, my phone. So it is created. It cannot come into existence by itself. It has planning behind this, engineering. So very delicate engineering. Humanity came to that level to make that phone. Humanity had to wait and struggle for a couple of thousand years. Allah knows how much. But this is high technology. It cannot come into existence by itself. Nor my glasses. It is also behind this. There is engineering, planning, mastering. All these. I mean, if you want to build a house, you need a blueprint. You need this and that, and you need material, and you need the expertise to build that thing, to make that thing. And then you need to be very careful. If you do wrong, it will not work. If you don't do it precisely as it should be, it won't work. So a lot of people involved just to build, to create, let's say, if you can say, a smallest thing. How can this universe, all this universe, come into existence by no planner, no engineer, no power, just by accidents? And we see that no accident can come into existence. Years ago, when I was in Turkey, I read a book. It was a translation of an English book, actually. There is an English, he passed away, by the way, but English philosopher, an atheist philosopher, Andrew Flew. He was atheist, a great philosopher in one of England's universities. So that guy spent his life for atheist philosophy. He spent his life for atheism, let's say. But at age 80, when he was 80 years old, he said, no, I'm wrong. There must be a God. So he wrote a book, There is a God. It is online. I mean, it is in Amazon. You can buy it. I read it in its Turkish translation maybe 15 years ago. So that scholar, Andrew Flew, he says how he came to the belief in God, why he went for atheism, and how he developed his thinkings, his ideas, and finally came to God. And when I read that book, I realized that there are a lot of parallels with his book and the Risale-i Nur. And I even doubt, did this man read the Risale-i Nur or not? But I don't think so. There is no reference in the book itself to Risale-i Nur, to any Muslim scholar, as I remember. He's taken it from a pure understanding of or reasoning, with pure reasoning. For example, I remember one of his examples was, he says, we put some apes, some chimpanzees in a cage, and we put some computers, keyboards with them, and they were all connected to printers. And we wanted the apes to write a meaningful sentence. So the apes, chimpanzees, they started hitting the buttons of the keyboards, and a couple of hundreds or maybe thousands pages came out when they hit. The machine was printing, and for a certain time, I don't remember. It's all the details are in the book. For a long time, they continued this experiment, and then they checked what the apes wrote. But he says there was no, let aside a meaningful sentence written by the apes by accident, because the apes they don't write, just hitting the button. But they wanted to check how many meaningful sentences they will come with. But no sentence, no meaningful sentence. Let aside, there is no meaningful word in all these hundreds of or a couple of thousand pages. There was no meaningful word that the chimpanzees wrote accidentally. So he says, Andrew Flew, he says, there must be a mastermind behind this universe. It cannot be accidentally. By the way, he's not a religious person. He did not believe, probably not, as I know, in any religion. But he came up in age 80. He came up to the faith in a creator. Whether he calls it him Allah or God or whatever, it's not important. He said there must be a creator. So this is an interesting example. If you find that book, if you read that book, it will give you a lot of insight. And of course, like Bediüzzaman, there are a lot of parallels with him and with Bediüzzaman's approach to the faith in God. So why I give that example, Andrew Flu's book, There is a God, because we know that about 15, 20 years ago, maybe, the early 2000s, another man, Richard Hawkins, I guess, he wrote a book, The God Delusion. So, and that became kind of popular. I didn't read the book, but I just checked the book and checked what he was saying. And Richard Hawkins, he was also, he's actually not so quite sure that and he cannot say there is no God. He doesn't say it. He says most probably there is no God. Like, he gives a probability, and he also at the end he understands that God's non-existence cannot be proved. No one can prove God's non-existence, and this is in here. I'll go. I can and skip to the other text. Can you see? Cannot see? Okay. Anyway, so you see me, right? You see me, but you cannot see the text. Okay, this is a Hoca Efendi's book, Essentials of Islamic Faith. This is Hoca Efendi's book. there are the first part, of course, about the existence of God. And he says that no one has ever proven God's non-existence, for to do so is impossible, whereas countless arguments prove his existence. This point may be clarified through the following comparison. So he also talks about the faith in God, and it cannot be proven. Allah's non-existence cannot be proven. That's an important point. So if you have this book, The Essentials of Islamic Faith, in English, you can see all the arguments, the historical arguments, and the answers of Muslim scholars. This is the most important point. One argument is, as you know, the atheists say that we don't believe what we don't see. So this is one of their main arguments. If you cannot see God, that means for them there is no God. But science says actually something very different. To make comparison, we know that all our senses of human and every creature is limited. For example, our hearing. I had a little research in the internet about our hearing. What do we hear? Human ear can hear between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz, or 20 kilohertz, as they say. So it's limited. Lesser than 20 hertz, we cannot hear. Human cannot hear. The voice is less than 20 hertz. And more than 20,000 hertz, human cannot also hear them. But there are other creatures, they can hear them. For example, dogs can hear more than human hear. They can hear up until 45,000 hertz or 45 kilohertz. And cats even are more incredible in that issue. They are more perfect in hearing. They can hear up to 79,000 hertz. So more than human being and more than even dogs. So some creature can hear what we cannot hear. This is the same for our sight, our seeing. What human can see is between 400 and 700 nanometers. So this is the measure, nanometer measures they give that. It is the wavelength. So when a wave is, the length of the wave is like 400 nanometer, it is so small. Between 400 and 700 nanometers, a human can see that wave, that light, or whatever. You can see that object. Before lesser than 400, you cannot see them. These are the infrared. No, infrared is more than 700. If something is more than 700 nanometers, it is the infrared things, you cannot see them. Lesser than 400, the ultraviolet things or whatever, you cannot see them. Does it mean, for example, the X-rays, let's say, the X-rays, it is found about maybe 1.5 century ago, and the man, European scholar called Röntgen, he found that X-rays, and he created these X-rays, and it is called today also Röntgen. So that guy found these rays, very tiny rays, that human cannot see them. Does it mean if we cannot see the X-rays, the ultraviolet rays, or the infrared rays, does it mean they are not exist? No, because if you would say this, all the scientists would laugh at you. There are something called X-rays. They exist, but we cannot see them. Why? Because our sight is limited. That's so easy. So why then can a man, a human being who has reason, can say, I don't see, I don't believe in what I don't see? How can you say this? Science will belie you. You will not be taken seriously. So this is the same thing. Let's come from science, or like seeing, to another realm, to reasoning about God. When we talk with religious people, talk about God, then the atheists say, then show us God. What is God? Show us. We have to understand we cannot show Allah. We cannot show him scientifically. We cannot prove his existence in a lab, in a physics or chemistry lab. We cannot do it because Allah doesn't look like any other elements, not like uranium or helium or whatever. You can see them in a lab under a microscope, or you can see very big stars with a telescope. You cannot show God to you in that way. Because why? Our reason is also limited, like our hearing, like our sight is limited. Our reason is also limited. For human reasoning, I didn't check, but you know, the IQ things, intellectual quality, I guess that's the shortage of this, intellectual quality or something like this, or quantity, maybe. So it is if you are up 150 to 160, I guess you are genius. But it has a limit, 170, 180 maybe. I don't know exactly. But there is no human being who has 300 IQ, 500 IQ. There is no such a thing. I never heard that. Or 1000 IQ. There's no such a thing. Maybe the prophets were, but we had no chance to check them. The prophets were the most intelligent people of the whole humankind. But that is another issue, another subject. So what if our IQ would be 1,000 or 10,000 or million? Could be able to see, for example, to understand Allah's essence, God's essence, that, which is called in Arabic, Dhatullah, Allah's essence. What is Allah made of? The Prophet says, do not think about it. لا تفكروا بذات الله. Do not think about the essence of Allah. Why? Because our intellect, our reasoning is limited. With 160, 170 or 80 IQ, you cannot comprehend Allah. Why? Why we cannot comprehend? Because we are created and Allah is not created. We assume, we believe that Allah is not created. And there is the question, who created Allah? If Allah would be created, he would not be Allah. He would be something created. He would be for example, let's say, if God is created, that means that created God is not God actually. It is something called, let's say, A. And then the question will repeat itself. Who created A? And you come up with B. And then you would say, who created B? And the answer would be C. For example, we are using our reason right now. But this will create a repetitive, infinite circle. So it will not end. It must end somewhere. The question, who created X, Y, Z, whatever, must end somewhere, logically. It cannot go forever. the place where it ends is Allah. Everything is, this is created by this, that. If you even go in that way, of course, everything is created by Allah, but if you even go logically in that way, that must be end somewhere, and this is Allah. This is God. So why is God the end of the chain of this question? Why we cannot go further? Because all the first question, who created A, who created B, who created C, all these A, B, C, D, E, all of these X, Y, Z's, they are created things. If something is created, you can easily and logically ask the question, who created it? But you cannot say it with Allah because He is the creator. That is the end of the story, end of the chain of that question. Who created Allah? There is no creator for Him. That question must end there, must end somewhere, and it is there. It is God Himself. But we cannot understand His essence because of that. He is not a created thing. If He would be a created thing, we could understand Him. We could actually comprehend Him. Let's say in a more better word, comprehend Him. Because of that, the Quran says, "La tudrikul absar, wa huwa yudrikul absar, wa huwa latiful khabir." So, no eyes can comprehend Him, but He comprehends all the eyes or the sights. Allah is uncomprehensible because of its essence, which we do not know what it is. We do not know what Allah's essence is, and we cannot do it. We cannot know it because our reasoning is limited. Like our sight, like our hearings, our reasoning is limited. With the limited reasoning, you cannot comprehend the unlimited, the infinite. Again, from Abu Hanifa, there is this anecdote. He started digging to show some atheists again something, to teach them a lesson. He started digging a pitch, a hole in the bank of the river. And then the atheists came to him and they asked, Abu Hanifa, what are you doing? He says, I'm digging here the pitch. And what are you going to do with that thing? And Abu Hanifa says, I'll fill the water of this river to that pitch. And then they said, are you crazy? How can the water of this river go into that small pitch, small hole? That is impossible, they say. And at that point, Abu Hanifa teaches his point. So, if that's the water of that river cannot go into that small place, how can you understand God, the infinite one, with your finite, limited reasoning, akal? How can you do that? So it is impossible for us to know the essence of Allah is impossible, and because of that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, do not think about the essence of Allah, but think about His asma wa sifat, His names and attributes, and His implementation, what He does in this universe. So we need to think, tefekkur, contemplation, to make contemplation, to ponder about the names and the attributes of Allah and what Allah does in this nature. For example, let's say, for example, water. It is H2, two hydrogen, one oxygen, right? And we know scientifically, that hydrogen and oxygen are dangerous. They both are dangerous. One is what they call the very technical term. One is a burning one, and the other is an accelerator of burning. So they are both hydrogen and oxygen, they are burning. But from three molecules, burning molecules, Allah creates extinguisher, water. Think about that and say Subhanallah. How this happened? How could be? Allah takes three burning material elements and creates an extinguisher, and it's as you know, water is life, meaning life. It's the essence of life. Allah gave life through that water. The importance of water is another subject. It's incredible water. Without water, you cannot survive even a couple of days, not more than a week. But it itself is burning material. Allah made water out of burning materials, oxygen and hydrogen. So think about that, like something like this. Tefekkur, contemplation, thinking deeply on the implementations of Allah, what He did, and to try to find the wisdom behind everything, because behind everything there is wisdom. Science only can explain how, but not why. Science can only explain how things happen, but not why things happen. Why is that so? The how is easy, but the why needs wisdom. Prophets, they gave the answers about on why. Why are we here on this planet? What is life? Why are we dying and where are we going? All these answers are given by prophets because they were getting the knowledge from Allah. So this is another subject, of course. Again, maybe turning to our subject, faith in Allah, so that I don't believe in what I don't see is not a logical argument. It is false, and because of that, many people in the history, most people, they believe in God one way or another. Whether you call him Allah or God or Dio or Khuda or whatever, even those who, even the pagans, they were believing actually in God, in divine deities. Okay, they general way was wrong, but they were believing in a creator. So most of the people, they believe. We cannot see God with our eyes. We will do it in the hereafter. This is in our faith. The believers will see Allah in the hereafter. How? I don't know. But the Prophet said it will be clear, like you see the full moon, you will see your Lord, he said. So Sahih Hadith. But not in this world, because we cannot comprehend it, cannot understand it. This is the point. But the most important evidence of Allah is, just give me a second. The most important evidence in Allah is our wijdan. Wijdan. We use that in Turkish. It's an Arabic word. We use that also in Turkish. Wijdan. Wijdan is coming from the word vejede in Arabic, means to find. Wijdan is the tool makes you find God. You just need to turn to it. Question: go deep in your wijdan and find God. Are we out of time? You have time? Yeah, inshallah. We will wrap up, inshallah. We have question. Okay. So that wijdan is another subject. It is very deep. It is the most important part. And actually, Bediüzzaman, when he wrote the 19th letter about there are three main teacher of God. One was a Kitab-ı Kebir-i Kainat, Rasulullah, and the Quran. He also added as the fourth Wijdan, but then he took it out when he was compiling the Risale. But Wijdan is something, your conscience. Wijdan, your conscience, when you ask him, will not lie to you. Your conscience will not lie to you. Ask him seriously, he will answer you seriously. That is God. You can see your Lord with your heart in this world and in the hereafter, inshallah, with our eyes, inshallah. So maybe we can have some questions. So one is, okay, Allah'a iman etmenin dereceleri var mıdır? İmanımızı nasıl? Yes, this is the first, and the second, I guess, imanımızı nasıl artırabiliriz? There are, of course, there are some ranks or levels, let's say, in the faith of God. I guess no one of us can claim that your iman in God is like the iman of our prophet in God. Okay, so the prophets they are more deeply, well, what we call yaqeen, certainty, yaqeen, and yaqeen has also some levels. Ayn al-yaqeen, haqq al-yaqeen. So ilm al-yaqeen, ayn al-yaqeen, haqq al-yaqeen. So the first is to know, a certainty by knowledge, and the second is certainty by seeing, and the third is certainty by haqq al-yaqeen, knowing the truth, let's say. By seeing, by ilm al-yaqeen, for example, you see smoke coming behind a mountain, behind a hill. You understand with your reason that there must be some people there, or there is at least a fire, and that smoke is the outcome of that fire. That is ilm al-yaqeen. You don't see the smoke, you don't see the fire, but you can infer, conclude that there is fire. But when you climb that hill, that mountain, you will see that smoke, and that means when you see it. This is ayn al-yaqeen, you see. Certainty by sighting. But the third one, the highest level of yaqeen, certainty, is when you go down to the fire and put your hand into the fire and you feel the pain, you are then that in certainty of the haqq al-yaqeen, that highest level. Prophets are in the haqq al-yaqeen level. But we can also go through that. And if we go deeper in iman, if we practice Islam, if we follow Islam, obey Allah and His Messenger, in time this yaqeen will occur. It will happen to us. So this is our duty, actually, to reach the level of haqq al-yaqeen, the certainty of the truth, the utmost truth. This is one. And maybe it's also the answer for the second one. How can we increase our faith, our iman? This is with first, all the time we will seek knowledge, because it goes through knowledge. Knowledge is important, and then practice. Knowledge, practice, and when we go that, in time we will increase, our iman will increase. Allah will increase our iman. Reading books that increase iman is very important, like Risale-i Nur or some other books, and even some increasing our knowledge in Quran and Hadith, reading tafsir books and Hadith books. Of course, sometimes they are very technical, so you really need to know what you read. Sometimes you need to ask some people about that. But increasing in knowledge, and then increasing in practice, go deeper. Because knowledge is doesn't mean anything if you don't practice it. It is just like the Quran describes, if you learn but don't practice, you're like a donkey who's carrying some books. كَمَثَلِ حِمَارٍ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. So this is we don't want to be like this. We want to be knowledgeable, but also a practicing Muslim. Otherwise, it doesn't mean too much. It is a way. And then after that, by time you go there are one dua, or let's say two hadiths. One is a hadith Qudsi that the Prophet ﷺ says that Allah said, my servant will fulfill his duty to me by the obligatory acts. So it is like daily 5 prayers, the Ramadan, fasting, Hajj, Zakat, all these things. So when my servant, Allah says, fulfill them, he will fulfill my his duty towards me. And when he starts do supererogatory nawafil, like supererogatory prayers, like tahajjud prayer or duha prayer, or like awabin prayer, or fasting prayer, supererogatory nafila fastings, like Monday and Thursday fasting, Saum is sunnah, but this is nafila. Or if you, there are some other nawafil. And do the nawafil, not just in prayer or in Saum, in everything. You follow not only the obligatory parts, the mandatory parts of religion, also supererogatory parts, which is not mandatory, but if you do them, you will getting closer to Allah. And Allah says, my servant doing that, obligatory parts and supererogatory parts, doing that, he will get closer to me. He will get closer to me until I became his hand, acting, doing. I became his sight, seeing. I became his food, going for good. So this is the hadith Qudsi, promising us, if you practice what you know, if you practice, like in terms of ibadah or the other things, you will get closer and closer to Allah. Of course, it's not in the hadith, but I mean, what we can infer is if you do commit sins, you will get far away from Allah. When you commit sin, if you commit any sin, you will get one step ahead, away from Allah. And may Allah protect us. May God forbid. At the end, if somebody doesn't stop committing sins, he will get so far away from God, he will fall into the trap of kufr, infidelity, kufr, non-believing. So we seek protection from God, inshallah. So this is one. And more practical, for example, to renew your faith, there is a hadith. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Jaddidu imanakum bi la ilaha illallah." Renew your iman with la ilaha illallah. So the dhikr of la ilaha illallah will increase your faith, your iman. Will increase, renew, and increase. And all the other zikrs, not just la ilaha illallah. The Prophet ﷺ, he gave that because la ilaha illallah is the most important. But when you say other zikrs like Subhanallah wa bihamdi Subhanallah al-Azim, the Prophet said this is two words. These two words, they are so كلمتان خفيفتان على اللسان ثقيلتان في الميزان حبيبتان إلى الرحمن. So two words, they are easy to the tongue. It's easy to say Subhanallah wa bihamdi, ones. The second, Subhanallah al-Azim. خفيفتان على ثقيلتان في الميزان. They are so heavy in the mizan, in the hereafter, when the deeds are measured, weight, they are so heavy, so important. وحبيبتان إلى الرحمن. So they are so beloved to the Ar-Rahman, Allah Jalla Jalla. Subhanallah wa bihamdi, Subhanallah al-Azim. There are a lot of zikrs. Subbuhun Kuddusun Rabbuna Rabbul Malaikat wa Ruh. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. For example, if you say this, Kenzun min kunuzil Jannah, this is a treasure from the treasures of Jannah. The Prophet says, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah is a treasure from the Jannah. So these words, these zikrs, will increase your faith, your iman. Together with the obligatory facts, you shouldn't just do them and not do the obligatory facts. Let me tell you an anecdote from one of our chaplain, prison chaplain friends in Connecticut. He saw an inmate converted to Islam, and then that brother, he started praying all the night. And our friend says, I don't see him, I didn't see him in the daily prayers, but he was praying all the night. The tahajjud, he was praying. And I asked him, brother, why don't you pray the 5 daily prayers, but you pray the whole night? And the brother said, oh Imam, you know, tahajjud is the shortcut to Jannah. So he thought, because he was new Muslim, he didn't know, no, this is not the way. First, you have to fulfill the 5 daily prayers, the farz, the obligatory parts, and then for the other parts. All these zikrs are meant this. Rather, if you are reading them, reading everyday Quran, that will increase your faith, and starting also trying to understand them. Okay. Another question here related to the first one. Does that mean we have a potential to see Allah in this world, like how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did? No, we don't have a potential to see Allah in this world. We cannot see Him. Musa alayhi salam, he asked Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, as it is in the Quran, Rabbi Erini Rabbi Erini anzur ilayk. In Surah Al-A'raf, Rabbi Erini anzur ilayk. Oh my Lord, let me see you. But Allah said, Lan tarani, you will not see me. And the story goes on, and then Allah revealed Himself, He manifested Himself, Tejalli, to the mountain, Mount Sinai, and it was scattered around, whatever. But we cannot see Allah in this world. We can see Him in the hereafter, because this world, the limitations of this world, cannot bear Him. Musa alayhi salam couldn't bear even seeing Mount Sinai is scattered. When Allah manifest Himself on the mountain was scattered, and Musa alayhi salam, he passed away, and even he couldn't bear it, so we cannot do it. The Prophet alayhi salam, did he see Allah in this world? Maybe in the Miraj. Did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam see Allah in the Miraj or not? According to the hadith scholars, he did not. But according to Sufis, he did. And Hoja, the one day he said, I believe what the Sufis say. But we need to understand this. The Miraj was out of this world. The Miraj, where the Prophet ﷺ saw Allah, was not in this created universe. Because, you know, Sidratul Muntaha, it is the last point of the created beings. Even Jibreel alayhi salam, he couldn't pass that. But Rasulullah passed that being, that part. Beyond Sidratul Muntaha, beyond that tree, it is given as a tree. We don't know its real nature. But said Sidratul Muntaha, that tree, the lotus tree or whatever. After that, non-existence started. Whatever it is, we cannot understand this. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was there in the realm of non-existence. Okay, so he could be able to see him there, but not here in that. But in the hereafter, Allah will reveal Himself to the believers. How to what extent we cannot say it, but we believe in that. We will see Him, inshallah, in the hereafter. Okay. I don't know. We covered a lot of things. Maybe short, but a couple of important things. If there is another question, I can answer. Otherwise, what can we do? I don't know. This is all what I wanted to talk tonight. I hope it was beneficial. I hope I did say the truth. And I hope in one way or another, my iman and your iman was increased. İnşallah. Okay.
Neset abi teşekkür ediyoruz.
Ben de teşekkür ederim hocam. İnşallah faydalı olmuştur.
Allah razı olsun. Çok güzel oldu inşallah.
İnşallah hocam. İnşallah. Dua edin. Bugünlerde dikkat edelim. İnşallah. Yani tedbir bizden, takdir Cenab-ı Allah'tan. Yani biz elimizden geleni yapalım. Bu hastalık yani çok farklı bir şey. Bugüne kadar geldi. Biz tedbirimizi alalım. Sakın böyle bize bir şey olmaz falan gibi böyle bir şey Cenab-ı Allah'ı yani ittiham edercesine haşa ve kella. Hastalık da Allah'tan, sağlık da Allah'tan. Buna inanıyoruz. Ama tedbir almak vazifemiz. Gerisinde Cenab-ı Allah'a verelim inşallah. Allah muhafaza etsin. Allahümme salli ve sellem ve barik ala seyyidina ve senedina ve mevlana Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve sahbihi ecmain. Allahümme hafazna min beyni eydina ve min halfina ve an eymanina ve an şimalina ve min fevkina ve min tahtina ya hafizu ya hafiz ya hafizu ya hafiz ya hafiz ya hafiz. Birahmetike ya erhamer rahimin ya zel celali ve ikram. Amin. Velhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Lillahi Teala Fatiha.